Welcome to the XFO Intelligence Podcast. This is the second episode in our series, The Artifacts of Wealth. Today we're going to deconstruct one of history's most effective strategies for converting influence into legacy, the patron's code, and specifically, how the Medici family of Florence turned art into the ultimate engine of power. We often view the magnificent art of the Renaissance, the sculptures, the frescoes, the soaring domes, as just pure aesthetic achievements, the sublime output of a cultural golden age. But to see them only as such is to miss a deeper and frankly more revolutionary story. In the hands of banking families like the Medici, these artifacts were not merely expressions of wealth. They were the sophisticated components of a new technology of power. They learned to transmute gold into glory and glory into unassailable authority, writing a playbook for influence that still resonates today. This was not simple philanthropy, not at all. It was a strategic, multi-generational campaign that, it redefined the very nature of wealth itself. The Medici, as these nouveau riche bankers in a republic that was wary of overt kingship, they faced a critical problem. How do you convert your financial capital into something more permanent, more legitimate? Their genius was in recognizing that the most durable artifacts of wealth were not the coins in their vaults, but the images in the public square and the ideas in the academy. Let's examine this alchemy of transformation. Vast sums from the Medici Bank were not hoarded, but strategically funneled into three key areas. First, public infrastructure as civic benevolence. When Cosimo de' Medici backed Filippo Brunelleschi's audacious plan to crown the Florence Cathedral with its immense dome, he wasn't just funding an architectural project. No, he was solving the city's greatest civic and engineering problem. The completed dome was a daily, visible testament to Medici-backed success, aligning the family's name with Florence's pride and technological triumph. It was an artifact that whispered, "Their wealth serves you." Second, art as a vehicle for personal mythology. The Medici understood the power of narrative. Sandro Botticelli's Adoration of the Magi is just a masterclass in this. On the surface, it's a biblical scene. In reality, it's a family portrait. In this Concierge Medici chapel, the Medici and their allies are depicted as the wise, regal magi, positioning themselves as the natural, pious leaders of Florence. Donatello's David, commissioned by the family, was the first freestanding nude sculpture since antiquity. A bold statement, linking the Medici name to the civic virtue and classical heroism of the Florentine Republic. Each sculpture and painting was a carefully crafted argument for their right to rule. And third, knowledge as the ultimate status symbol. Beyond paint and marble, the Medici invested in minds. They founded the Platonic Academy, supporting philosophers like Marsilio Ficino, and they collected ancient manuscripts into what became Europe's first public library. By positioning themselves as the patrons of the greatest intellectual network of their time, they transformed their identity from merchants into, philosopher princes. The artifact here was not just a book, but the very aura of enlightenment that now surrounded the family name. This initial investment triggered a powerful, self-reinforcing cycle, a feedback loop of power. The goodwill generated by public works built a vast reservoir of social capital, creating a network of artists, intellectuals, and grateful citizens who formed a powerful political base. This political base allowed the Medici to influence elections and policy from behind the scenes, translating that social capital directly into political capital. Political control, in turn, allowed them to secure more lucrative financial contracts and favorable laws, thereby replenishing and increasing the family's wealth. This renewed financial power was then funneled back into even more ambitious patronage, amplifying the cycle. A chapel led to a church a church to a palace to a political network strong enough to survive conspiracies and exiles, and ultimately to produce popes and queens. The artifacts themselves became active agents in this system. The Palazzo Medici was not just a home, it was a statement of restrained power and a venue for political deal-making. The Florentian library, designed by Michelangelo, was not just a book repository, it was a monument asserting the Medici as the heirs to classical wisdom. These were not passive symbols, they were functional tools that worked continuously to manufacture consent and legitimacy. This Medici blueprint, using cultural patronage to launder wealth into legitimacy, is a timeless strategy. We saw it in the Gilded Age, when industrial barons like Rockefeller and Carnegie built museums and libraries to soften their reputations as, ruthless monopolists. They understood that endowing a public good could transform the narrative of their wealth. Today, this pattern continues with even greater sophistication. Tech billionaires and corporate giants are the modern Medici, deploying their wealth not just in traditional philanthropy, but in strategic cultural engineering. A named wing on a museum or a new building on a prestigious campus serves as a permanent granite and glass assertion of legacy, directly mirroring the Medici chapels in Florentine churches. Major sponsorship of cultural biennials and art fairs associates a corporation or an individual with creativity and innovation, buffering their brand from criticism and embedding them in elite global networks. The modern philanthro-capitalist, much like the Medici supporting humanist thinkers, funds specific scientific research and intellectual agendas that align with their worldview, aiming to shape the future not just through commerce, but through the very direction of human knowledge itself. The enduring lesson from Florence is this: the most powerful artifacts of wealth are never inert. They are active participants in the social and political landscape. Gold can be stolen, and businesses can fail, but a legacy carved into the cultural bedrock of a civilization, whether in the marble of a David, in the curves of a dome, or in the halls of a museum, can endure for millennia. The Medici's true masterpiece was not any single painting or sculpture. It was the system they engineered, a perpetual motion machine of influence that proved that whoever can write a culture's story, fund its dreams, and build its monuments ultimately holds its power. If you found this analysis valuable for your own strategic thinking, we encourage you to share this episode with your network. Please take a moment to like and subscribe to the XFO Intelligence channel so you don't miss future episodes of the Artifacts of Wealth. Now, here's a question we'd like you to think about. In an age of digital impermanence and heightened public scrutiny, what are the modern equivalents of cathedrals and commissioned masterpieces? What non-physical artifacts, code, data, intellectual property, or social protocols will be used to build the enduring legacies of the 21st century?